Let's make it fun. Come on. I mean, not just talking about marketing all the time and revenue, which are pretty much sad. I mean, the situation itself is already sad. Let's have fun at least.
Okay. Ale!
Yoo-hoo!
Mr. Alessandro.
Mr. Fabian.
We're in lockdown. Lockdown week 1 done. Officially, most countries closed borders, closed doors, everything on the 1st of April. A lot of them have done it until the 15th. Some are already pushing it to the 30th. So back home, Easter will never be the same, as they say. But quick question to you. Now, after week 1, right? Are people going to go insane?
Are people what? Sorry?
Going to go insane.
What do you mean by going insane?
Are they going, like, you have all those tips, all those tricks out there?
Oh, all right.
If you go through LinkedIn, you will have the 10 million best tips and tricks on how to do anything from tying your shoelaces right now.
Right.
How to deal with the current situation, right?
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming situation. As a matter of fact, I mean, not only on LinkedIn, but also if you go on Facebook, I mean, depending on where people are, but you can find plenty. I mean, I've never seen so many webinars like in these days, like in these times. Like, as a matter of fact, it seems like everyone has become a sort of webinar expert, which is kind of understandable in the sense that, and I agree with that, I'm not complaining about it, which is a cool thing, but it's kind of too much. I mean, the human mind has anyway a sort of, it's like a hard disk, has a sort of limit, you know, you cannot store too much information in a very limited period of time. And therefore, the most difficult thing is about filtering in and filtering out. The problem is that it really depends, in my opinion, on our state of mind, let's put it this way, because if we are really kind of anxious about what the situation is and about what the situation is going to be, not knowing how the future is going to unfold, and therefore getting concerned about what the situation is going to be next, that is definitely not the best state of mind to try to learn something new. I mean, we are all on the same boat, that's what I think. And also what I said is that it's kind of useless that we try to keep proposing solutions when solutions, there are no solutions at the time.
It's uncertain, right? Tomorrow, I mean, tomorrow is another day, right? Tomorrow
is another day, and no one knows what's going to be happening tomorrow. And I quite don't understand why are we keeping. Why? Let's put it this way: because we can keep hearing and listening to, let's say, expert webinars or anyway people talking about when this is going to be over, what's going to be next exactly. And what we should be prepared for, which is exactly also what we do in a sense. But okay, let's be honest, no one knows what's going to be next. So eventually, we can prepare now and think about what we did before, because we were not perfect before, no one was perfect before, and probably we can use this time, and rather than trying to foresee what's going to be next, try to improve what we were not doing well before.
Okay, but here's my question, right? All or most of those tips and tricks are based on before, right? But is the landscape and everything actually going to be the same after? Like, will marketing be the same? Will working be the same? Right now, I mean, we talk, remember which company was that? Netscape or something like that back in the day that started to have all of their employees remote and everybody from anywhere, and it was like, oh my God, you're getting more productive, and others said, no, you're actually losing productivity. We're forced right now to just do everything digitally, right? And my question is, are we at a pivotal moment right now where we have to redefine everything from a market perspective?
No, we don't have to redefine anything now. Actually, we don't have to redefine absolutely nothing now, in the sense that, I mean, like we just said, no one knows what's going to be next. But for sure, we need to keep our mind open, because what's going to be next is going to be different. I'm a strong believer that we are not going to get back to where we were before. The situation is going to be different. How much? Actually, I don't know. I really don't know. And I guess no one can know. And no one can
But how do you think it would surface when you say different?
Well, I mean, I just give you an example.
Are we all going to now to say hi all year long? Or?
No. But I'm just going to give you an example. And by the way, this is also something that I'm going to talk about in one of my next posts, because I have already scheduled. But it's a sort of course, it's not. I don't pretend to be right, in the sense that I don't pretend to, to tell what the future will be, and that this is going to be how the future is going to unfold. But anyway, I just try to picture the future also based on how I already do and how I already live my life. Because if you know me, you perfectly know that I am sort of location independent. And all of a sudden, actually, and when was it? It was.
Yeah, but you wanted to go back, didn't you? Like, I know you came to Asia for a couple of months.
No, actually, I mean, yeah, at a certain point I wanted to go back, but it was not scheduled. Okay. And I actually, since the very moment the first infected individual was found in Italy, I never thought of going back, actually, because I thought, I was totally sure that it was actually not the best moment and not the best place to be. Even though, of course, I wanted to be close to my relative parents and friends, but of course, it's definitely not an ideal situation. Mm-hmm. But the point is, think about it, especially since the very first week of lockdown. I'm talking about, for example, Italy, okay? Because in Europe, at least, it's been the very first country that is going to down this path. But the very first week, or the very first 10 days of lockdown in Italy, the very first top sold item on Amazon was the headset, something like this, a headset with a microphone. Because like we started this talking, we started this call, we talk about people who eventually started either delivering or listening to webinars, online trainings, tutorials and stuff. Wherever possible, companies, corporations started allowing, of course, remote working. So what's going to be next? Or let's put it this way, I'm just trying to reverse, or let's say to turn this question upside down. Why didn't they do it before? And not because practically speaking it was not possible.
No, because we didn't need to change. No,
exactly. There was no need to change. No, we were forced because that's the only option. And what's going to be next? Do you really think that we are going to be back to where we were? So how nice it was to go 9 to 6 to the office or whatever time it was, when apparently and effectively you can do it. By the way, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that not everything.
There's a lot of people out there that kind of go like, crikey, I wish I would be back in the office.
Of course. And I'm totally aware of it. And that's why I'm saying, don't get me wrong. This is not a bad thing. But what I'm saying is that we probably do not necessarily need to be back to the office in that way and in such a strict way. So a little bit more of flexibility could be. And when this flexibility is possible, more likely we can also find new people to target to in terms of travelers, hotel guests, or people who can eventually travel, not necessarily for business or leisure, but kind of mixing them up. I am traveling while working, and many other people can do that now. That is something that, of course, it's going to be taking a little bit of time. I'm not saying that as soon as this emergency will be over, everything will be like this. The world will be totally digital, totally location independent, of course. But that's something that we might and we should consider. And I guess this is the time to be open-minded like this and to at least accept that the world can move down that path. That's the change that I can suggest.
I mean, we're kind of blurring online and offline, right? And when we look at our youngest ones, so my kids, for example, Hafa and Hayden, Gen Alpha, I mean, for them, there is already no difference, right? Google the person, because wherever you go, you say, okay, Google, and somebody's phone somewhere in the audience will go, ding, ding. And chances are they can play her favorite music. What I find strange, though, is that also all the conferences right now kind of go digital, and then taking it even a step further, that you as a vendor can get a digital booth.
Oh, yeah.
Which I find bizarre. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in virtual reality, right? We own a couple of places in virtual cities, right? shops, apartments, right? It's kind of like the old Second Life kind of thing, and it's a huge industry for people to escape. I don't think we're there yet as an entire species, but we have just made a rapid jump into digital if we wanted to or not, right? And as you see, people had to buy headphones because all of a sudden was you have to work from home. There's no other way around, right? But saying that then, what does it mean for marketing specifically going forward? And I would even take it one step further. Will that have an impact on the driving direct? Or also seeing what the OTAs have done throughout the time from how they deal with the guests and their partners, rightly or wrongly, right? And I'm not judging here. But there were items where the OTAs have done a front and have implemented certain measures because they believe that's in the best interest of the clients. Yes. So how's it going to change the landscape?
It's going to change in a radical way, in my opinion, but it all depends on how we face this radical change, in the sense that one of the biggest, not necessarily, I don't want to even call it a mistake, but anyway, something that I've never been in agreement with was about dealing with customers and prospects in the very moment they were looking for hotels. So if you imagine a funnel, which is actually a pyramid or a triangle, where the closer to the tip of the pyramid, the closer you are to the booking moment or the moment where the people are ready to purchase. That is where actually the highest competition is in terms of OTAs, hotels, so other hotels, any kind of competitor is, and that is where we all start dealing with customers. Eventually, and this is, by the way, something that we could start dealing with way before, and it's not that I want to mention any names, but I mean, the very old word OTAs, direct bookings, it's been, again, a very old war. Now, especially in the last year, there is a third player, which is Google. And as a matter of fact, we started talking about Google, OTAs, and hotels.
What about the dark horse being the offline channels, the wholesale?
Yeah, the offline channels. But there is another one, which is also Facebook. And Facebook, no one talks about Facebook. Everyone talks about Facebook in terms of... But you know why I'm mentioning specifically Facebook? And I'm not talking about the, let's say, the organic reach of the Facebook, of any Facebook content, because that is actually, it's happening on Facebook what exactly it has already happened on Google. The organic content is actually losing the effectiveness, and that's pretty much normal. The only tool that is pretty, let's say, still relevant from an organic perspective is LinkedIn, but we'll get to that point, I guess, too. But the thing is, from a pay, or let's say, hotel advertisement or paid advertisement anyway, Facebook is a miracle, is a magic wand. And by the way, me personally, I'm focusing a lot of my energy now on Facebook advertisement, also in terms of content, because there is literally a huge word that literally can help us and the hotel industry in general dealing with customers, with prospects in a way better way. Not only
but you're talking content or booking, because the booking stuff for me, kind of, they tried that 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years.
Sorry, the what?
Booking. Do you remember the times when social media came out and everybody was hailing it as the next thing to be destroying all the OTAs, and everybody will run through the door and book through Instagram and Facebook? Right?
Yeah.
And I can see some of that happening in retail, right? I understand booking through Instagram when you go through your feed and you see certain closing articles or something else. But I don't think we're there yet from a hotel booking perspective.
No, it's not about booking. So I'm not talking about social media as a booking tool, or anyway a channel that can replace the booking engine. Or
purely talking content.
And yes and no, in the sense that I'm talking about the Facebook or anyway social media, but specifically the advertisement area or section of the social media as a way to get reach and to reach to people that probably we didn't even think about, to reach to people in a way more detailed way, for example, with retargeting campaigns that they're on Facebook. You can do retargeting on Google, for example.
Yeah, and Facebooking stuff is
absolutely
actually quite good, yeah.
It's absolutely
Very
great.
good, yeah.
But it's also good at reaching out to people that you had never thought about. And it's absolutely great what kind of things that you can do. Now, it's pretty difficult for me to tell you in now 1 minute or 2 minutes what exactly you can do. But essentially, again, think about the pyramid that I told you before, where all of the people who are closer to, let's say, conclude or complete a reservation is just a tiny little part. Just think about the 3% of any people who is actually interested in something is ready to book. Like 3% of your website visitors ready to book. Only 3%. 97% not ready yet. And actually, the biggest part is of those people who can be prospects, who can be clients, but actually are not even thinking about of traveling, for example, to Singapore, Thailand, Italy, or whatsoever. But there's still another huge, big, let's say, cake slice that consider people who are already in their awareness, meaning, for example, dreaming about going somewhere, going to Singapore, going to Thailand, going to Italy, going to Germany, going to wherever. Not ready to book yet, of course, but they are so much in their dreaming phase that they're so open to get suggestions. More likely, those are all people who don't even know where they want to go. They just know that they want to go somewhere. They just know they're just dreaming about their vacations. They don't know where to go. And this is, I call it the blue ocean market, referring to the blue ocean strategy, which is a great book that I talk about. But anyway, it's a blue ocean where no one is. And that's actually where I suggest, from a marketing perspective, hoteliers and hotel marketers getting into way much more, aggressively from that point of view.
But a hotel itself, because for me, that dreaming stage was mostly around, and I'm excluding those really exotic destinations that have an appeal for itself.
Yeah, okay.
Isn't that more country and destination management?
Not necessarily.
Because
yes.
I wouldn't look at a hotel specifically.
Yes.
Kind of go Roma versus Florence.
Exactly. But in that case, if you are trying to deal with customers in their dreaming phase by showing how beautiful your hotel rooms are, you're going to lose, of course. And that is not the phase where you can show them such a thing, because if you're dreaming about a vacation, probably you're not even thinking about a specific destination. But even if you're thinking about the beach, you're thinking about what you will be visiting, you're thinking about the museum or any other point of interest, that's the content that you need to show them. So that's what the awareness is in the funnel process, also in the booking process. And that's my biggest concern, or my biggest, not necessarily critic, but anyway, the biggest pain point that I've seen so far. So not only looking into the future, but also looking back at what the situation was, that everyone was dealing, again, with the tiny little piece of prospects or potential customers who were at the very tip of the iceberg, but no one was actually ready to deal with prospects, the vast majority of them who were a little bit underneath. And that's actually a huge potential and a huge opportunity that we might be dealing with, because if you think about it, OTAs are not there, OTAs are not there, nor can they be there.
Yeah, but they're beginning, right? And that's the interesting part. So when I look at that funnel, or when I look at
absolutely. But sorry for interrupting, but answer me this question. If you are in Singapore, let's assume that you are a hotel owner in Singapore.
Yeah.
And I am a potential customer, a prospect who might be interested in coming to Singapore. Who do you think I will be more, who do you think I will trust you more, in the sense that you being the insider of Singapore, so the one who can give me eventually tips and tricks about Singapore, secret place that I can go visit, rather than a third party, an entity that is totally cold, which is not even meant to be a travel guide like Booking.com or Expedia or any other OTAs.
I understand that point. I know where you're going, but let me flip that over, right? We booked through a third party, right? Instead of one of the trusted ones, right? Because it was a bit cheaper, right? And now you have trouble getting your money back, for example, right? I find that the OTAs have actually become very, very good at positioning themselves as experts for each and every single destination. right? Right.
Yes.
So, and equally, I think they have done a very good way of nurturing the client throughout the entire pyramid, right?
Yes.
And they don't
Absolutely.
need to at the end. So for me, it's a bit like, let's say you go on a tour, right? And you have your tour guide, and then you come out of the attraction, you have those 100 sellers bombarding you with, oh, buy my pyramid, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But because you are the guide, which in this case would be the OTAs, for example, you're really more inclined to go with anybody that they trust than going to anybody out there that you have no idea with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where we went right or wrongly, because you can argue both points.
Exactly.
I agree with you that I think hotels need to be able to address multiple parts of the funnel, right? And I think in software, for example, we generally talk about that you got to go across the entire funnel and bring people in. But we don't kind of do that with guests. We kind of expect them to come to our door and then we'll take over the ownership.
Exactly. And good luck.
The relationship already starts way earlier. But why do people not get over the hump? Is it so difficult? Is it so expensive? I mean, there must be something holding somebody back to say, let me just go on Facebook and try it out. No? I'm using Facebook because you have used it, but it could be anything.
Yes, but I mean, the reason, I mean, you touch point on many different topics actually. And I mean, starting from the last point, why do people, I mean, let's put it this way. You know me, and you know that I'm kind of against all those urgency, scarcity messages that pop all around any kind of website and stuff. And this is exactly why I am talking about this topic, in the sense that we either have two ways. So either we wait for the prospects to be kind of ready to book, or at least be in this planning mode, meaning that is consistently.
It became concrete, right?
Exactly.
I know it's Singapore. Let's say I know it's Singapore.
Exactly. It starts becoming a hot lead, let's put it this way. And we wait for it to become hot, or at least warmer, to deal with them. What about if we, again, when it becomes hot or deal, and if we haven't dealt with them before, the only thing that we can deal with is about scarcity and urgency, in the sense that we are simply perceived, we hotel, of course, we're simply perceived as a commodity, in other words, a number.
That's a bad place to be, you know? It's like toothpaste. It's literally nothing else. I mean, you go to Colgate and there's 32 different flavors of toothpaste, right?
Exactly.
Even Colgate has no idea which one is for what, right?
If the brand is not
Colgate, if anybody here is from Colgate, sorry, but but essentially for me, exactly as you said, hotels have kind of been put into that place of a Colgate to say, well, you got to brush your teeth, you got to sleep, right? But it really doesn't matter the hotel anymore. You know, one is the same as the other. If you flavor 5-star, you go here. If you flavor 4-star, you go there. I find that's actually a pretty sad thing that we have gone through.
Oh, yes.
But are we too late to flip that around?
No, we're not too late. It's just that we need to change our perspective from that point of view. And I'm aware that probably the reason why we didn't change our perspective before, meaning we didn't start dealing with prospects at an early stage in their booking journey, is because we were not aware of, now I'm talking about Facebook, but anyway, I'm talking about the tools and the solutions that the market and the marketplace has already been providing us with, to start dealing with them. So just to give you an example of what you can do potentially with Facebook. And again, it's not necessarily because I'm a big supporter of Facebook. I am, from a marketing perspective, clearly am, but I try to support what I'm saying. But just to give you an example, if you are a family hotel, all right, so, or at least if you want to target or potentially target families, because you think that they are, for whatever reason, you want to market to them. Well, on Facebook, you have a possibility with your advertisement, of course, to target specifically, for example, parents, but not only parents, but for example, parents who have children aged between, I don't know, 2 years and 8 years, who lived in Singapore, who have certain interest, who have, for example, upcoming birthday in the next month, because more likely your hotel stay may turn into a birthday gift. You see how many things you can do. And now I'm just speaking a very rough and broad example.
Are the right people still there? I have not, honestly, to anybody who has given me a like or a happy birthday over the last 2 years and I haven't replied, it's because I have not been on Facebook for the last 2 years.
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever. I mean, it's still part of Facebook. I'm not talking about all the people of the world, but we're talking about anyway more than 2 billion people, 2.5 probably billion people who are on Facebook. Yes, Google is a little bit Google is a little bit bigger in terms of reach, of course, because everyone is on Google. But Google, the main difference between Google and Facebook is that Google is more reactive, while Facebook is more proactive. In the sense that Google, you need people to enter a keyword for you advertiser to show up.
For now, right? But if you see what they have done with their UI over the last...
Yes, but what I'm saying is that...
stunning.
Exactly, stunning. But why do we have to wait for something to come out where we can already start working with these kind of things right now? And it's not a big deal in this. Well, also in terms of cost, it's absolutely now. The cost that really depends. It's like the cost per click on Facebook.
Okay, so what's the return? Let me ask you this way. What's the return? If I put $500 in, will I get anything out?
That's the $1 billion question. It might be 3x, 5x, 10x, even more than 10x. It can also be zero.
But that's what I mean, right? And I think that the other part is.
Yeah, but the point is, it's not Facebook that drives the result. It's the ad and the copywriting, the image, the visual that drive the result. So, anyway, but I don't want to put too much focus on the tool. You see?
No. But what I'm trying to say is, in 2015, I ran a panel on revenue management. We had somebody from TripAdvisor there, right? And we were talking about marketing and other stuff. And the person from TripAdvisor was quite interesting. She said, the reason why the OTAs have won is because they never asked or came that we have a budget. All they ask for is, if I put in more money, how much more will I get out of it? And looking at it from an investment perspective or from a return perspective, this is a cost perspective, so to speak. To change the way we think about that as an industry, or have we already? Because you're more involved in that than I am from a marketing perspective. You're waiting for my question?
Yes, I'm waiting for your question because
Have we changed already? So have you seen already a shift in people looking at those tools through different eyes, and people in that sense, I mean, hoteliers, the adoption of them? Or is it still a kind of like, unsure about it?
I mean, like in all cases, especially when it comes to digital stuff, there is a pool, not sure how big, actually not that big, of early adopters. Early adopters are everywhere. And those,
of course.
Let's say, and I kind of like them, actually. Those are the, not necessarily the people who I prefer working with, but I really like that kind of mindset, that putting the opportunity in front and not necessarily the concerns or the problems. And then they face it and then work and they make it work. There is already quite a good number of people who are going down that path. I am running, there are not specific numbers in terms of statistics that say how many people, how many hoteliers are going down that path. In my very little garden, I'm actually doing my little test, which is a very tiny little one. I simply selected 100 hotels and I will probably publish the result of my test probably next week as soon as I'm ready, which is exactly like that. So how many hoteliers out of 100 are doing certain things? In the specific, I will be talking about retargeting, which is, again, one of the, let's say, most basic, yet most effective marketing campaigns that one can work with. But you see, for example, I mean, it's still, if we talk about it, when it talks about marketing, the brand protection campaign, so on Google, so the hotel name, the hotel brand on Google as a keyword, is still a burning topic. So much a burning topic that still on the other side, on the flip side, barely someone knows about retargeting, or at least a lot of people do not even know what retargeting is and do not work with retargeting, which is a huge pity. And not sure where the problem is, in the sense whether it is a lack of knowledge, whether it is a lack of budget, or misleading information, or whatever. But there is still a lot to do. Still, there are a few early adopters that are leading the way, actually, and those are the ones that I think we should be following, at least when it comes to this kind of digital marketing stuff.
So if we close our eyes right now and imagine life after COVID, right?
In 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
1 year, let's go 1 year from now, right? Let's say we're past the revenge travel, right? We close our eyes and imagine how the entire guest journey looks, right? What do you envisage then?
That's a very good question. And to answer that question, or at least to try to envision the answer to that question, I was trying to look at how people are reacting in China, meaning China being the first country being affected by the COVID, and now on the way out from COVID. And apparently, and I mentioned this last time, and already in a couple of my posts, that travel now is not necessarily a luxury, is a need. And I do expect people traveling a lot, probably even more than before.
Yeah, so that's what I meant. Revenge travel.
Exactly.
Let's take the revenge travel out, right? Because just throwing a tantrum, right? I can't travel right now, so I will. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, before we were making things in a very, I used to call it autopilot mode. And that's why the OTAs were so successful. In this very moment, in the uncertainty of this situation, the best marketing tool we had in our hands was relationship marketing, meaning getting in contact with our customers and prospects and speaking from the heart. And you know that I also wrote about it. Yeah. And I guess that this will make a difference when the emergency will be over. Also, considering what the OTAs did, I mean, in my opinion, the OTAs, I'm not against the OTAs, first of all. I want to make the point clear because, yes, I mean, I support direct bookings, of course, but I don't necessarily see the OTAs as the evil, especially in this situation. The OTAs, in my opinion, are the least of the problems. But anyway, the OTAs are not dealing with the situation in a very good way. I mean, they also did some move, especially Booking.com, which I used to have a little bit of respect in towards. I mean, especially for Booking.com in this last month, I probably lost it completely, but they shoot themselves in the foot quite heavily. And I don't know what the reaction will be, in the sense that...
Why what?
Sorry?
Why?
Well, especially with regards to the cancellations, you know, so the cancellation during COVID, I mean, for stays after COVID periods, after lockdowns, the way they dealt with customers and with hotels, on one side, forcing hotels to reimburse and refund even those not refundable reservations. That was, in my opinion, a marketing move, in the sense that they wanted to be seen in the eyes of the customers as the one individual, as the one entity who guarantees their rights. After that, though,
to be honest, if you would be working for them right now, and your job would be, you would not be talking about customers, you would talk about my customers.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's, I fully understand.
I mean, it's depending from the angles you want to see the things, but they keep referring to hotels as partners. And I mean, why do they keep referring as partners when they have not even been asked about the situation that they wanted to bring along? So it's always, I mean, it always depends on the angle you want to see this thing from. But again, I really cannot say in 1 year. It can be everything. Honestly, literally can be everything. I don't really want to say what it's going to be, but it's going to be interesting and it's going to be different. Not sure in which way different, but it's what I also want to say is that it doesn't necessarily depend on external factors. It really also depends on us and how we behave now, especially, I mean, I said it many, many times, not only in this call, but also in my previous posts and articles. The most important thing now is relationship, marketing relationship with our customers, to get in contact with them and speaking from the heart. The return that you get is extremely high, and you're going to be rewarded way more as soon as the emergency is going to be over. And to do that, I mean, the only tip that I want to highlight again is please avoid those standard or templated messages that you can find everywhere, like the safety of our customers and stuff is our utmost priority whatsoever. I mean, you can find it everywhere. Please be a little bit creative, at least.
Well, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what week 2 brings as far as lockdown and how many new tips and tricks we get.
No, I know, but I mean,
where we're going, because if it continues like that, the most I can see a dive going down, because people are shooting their bullets, and it kind of went like,
sure,
it's another week. I'm not going to repeat what's 2 weeks ago, because that's just not relevant anymore, right? Because
but I mean, it's
just changed.
I mean, I'm aware of the situation, honestly, and even talking about direct OTAs, marketing, revenue, probably is definitely beyond the point now where most businesses and most hotels, not most of it necessarily, but a lot of hotels and a lot of companies, a lot of groups are actually shutting down for such a long time, and who knows whether they will be able to recover. But yes, we are just trying, I guess, to envision a little bit of positive future for what is going to unfold.
Oh, we have to, right? We are born to reinvent, right?
Absolutely.
You can't, if you look at the history of mankind, we were beaten to a pulp on numerous occasions. Right? Mm-hmm. And yet we came out different. And I'm not saying stronger, because we came out different and certain things were made by necessity, right? But we came out with new innovations, new ways of thinking about stuff, new ways of dealing with stuff, just like now. Everybody has a different version of digital experience right now. Every different experience of what does it actually mean to work from home, right? And I think that will heavily influence, in 2 to 3 years' time, how do we actually experience travel. And will the experience of travel, I mean, at the moment you look at statistics and they will tell you that 70-80% of people really hate this part of the planning. Mm-hmm. It's just so complicated and it's so disjointed, right? And then they go to that experience, which is generally, I get into the cab, drive wherever I need to be, go on a plane, taxi, whatever, stay and come back home until I'm back home, right? That's what they focus on, the experience. I think now we have a real chance to own that entire spectrum from very early on. Why wouldn't we want to have a digital conversation with a customer when they want to book a hotel?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like you said, this whole situation, if there is one positive aspect of this whole situation, is that it kicked us in the ass, if I'm allowed to say, in the sense that we are no longer supposed to be driving and running our businesses in autopilot mode. And I said them many times. And like you said, I mean, now companies who never even thought about, or corporations who haven't even thought about allowing smart working, now they are forced. And
it works.
And it works. And what does it translate for the hotel industry and the travel industry is what I said at the very beginning, that we keep focusing too much on the business and leisure travelers as if there were two different pools, when in my opinion, there is one big pool that is actually bundling and merging them all, that is going to be totally different. And I'm saying so because I am one of them. That's why I'm saying probably I'm one of those early adopter of the location independent setup. And I'm saying so because I would want to spend more of my money for hotels, meaning the industry where I work for. But actually, I don't find the services that me and people like me are looking for. So also people, for example, a place or a space where we can work with a decent Wi-Fi, or at least a minimum service in terms of even just the electrical plugs, so just where I can plug in my laptop.
No, but two, right? Plug in your phone and your laptop.
Phone and your laptop, and it doesn't have to be on the other side of the room, because of course I have a Mac, and if you have a Mac, you pretty much know how much short they are, probably 1 meter long. So I have to be, pretty tight. These kind of tiny little things, and now we're laughing about it, but actually no one thought about it. Yeah. And there are, no one is a little bit of an exaggeration, of course, but those who we we probably need to think in this way, in the sense that the world will rapidly change from now on.
Yeah.
How, I hope this is going to be a sort of hint, and I hope more and more people will follow the lead in this way. Not sure. I think so. But actually, business leisure, it's kind of outdated to me, honestly. It doesn't make much more sense. And it would make less and less sense from now on.
Woohoo!
Made it!
It's weekend!
True. It's weekend. Thanks
Whenever
for
you're watching
telling
this,
me.
whenever we're watching this, was recorded on just going into the weekend.
Oh, yes.